Well, I'm down here somewhere. So hold on a second. Let's see. Where am I? There we go. I am here. Welcome. Good day, good afternoon, and good morning. Coming to you live from my mom's attic in East Tennessee. I'm glad you're here, everybody. And this is Sportcat. That's me. And I am here for the Daily Digest. The daily, what is it, the doom and gloom? Like I say, I want to make sure that all you prepping people understand that, well, you don't have to necessarily think about the world's going to end tomorrow because, well, it's not. So, all right, well, let's see. We got some check-ins here. First off, let me update everybody because I don't think everybody got it. I was off the air for a couple days because I had to attend to a personal family emergency, and that's why I'm live in my mom's attic. So it's going to sound different. It's going to look different. So I apologize, and there's probably going to be some hitches or glitches along the way. But mom is well, my aunt is well, my cousin's well. I'm here in East Tennessee, and I will be for a while. So, yeah, so that's the update on me and why we were dark for a couple days, but we are back. I am back in my mom's attic, and well, I guess I'm glad to be here. I don't know. I'm not going to argue. And I was going to run and get some green shirt on, but I forgot. So you just have to substitute the Mountain Dew behind me. So let's catch up in the chat here. Hello to, this screen looks so different on the laptop. Hello, Wendell. How are you? Denise, welcome. Glad you're here. Let's see. Can I close that or minimize that? Yeah, I can do that. Oh, I see what the deal is. I'm full screen. There we go. All right. Hello, Denise. How are you? Chris, always a pleasure. Thank you. Chris is always the one that reminds me. Everybody that is listening on Yerg's Radio, we want to thank Ross for allowing us to be on yergsradio.com. That also streams us on Radio X in Australia. Good day. I need you to please come over and help me get monetized on YouTube. So come over and find me on the Paranormal Guys. That's Paranormal Guys, Guyz. It's guys with a Z, and help me get to 1,000 subs. So, yeah, Chris, it was something new I was experimenting with. I was going to do it at home. I wasn't sure if it was going to work on this computer. So, yeah. So, but yeah, we're glad you're here. What Wendell said it was Saturday night. I don't know what he's talking about, but yes, all is well. Great news. Yes, very great news. Thank you to everybody. And yes, it is St. Patrick's Day. And I got a news story about it. That's where we'll start off. But I totally forgot to wear green. So I don't know. Maybe I'll go out and see if I can get some girls to pinch me or something. We'll see what happens. I don't know. So. Well, I hope everybody's having a great day and a happy St. Patrick's Day. And if you celebrate, you should be wearing green, so don't follow my advice. All right, well, let's see what we got here on I look so tiny on this. Can I make myself bigger? No, that didn't help. I don't like that either. You have to forgive me. I'm learning to work with, I can live with that. I'm learning to work with a new computer. Well, not new, but no, I don't like that. That's not, the screen needs to be bigger. Okay. Or at least on my end. Okay. So we'll start off this way and see what happens. I may break it before the end of the show. We got 2 hours to experiment and see what happens. So we say happy St. Patrick's Day, but I did not know that Stories of Resistance, the St. Patrick's Battalion, St. Patrick's Day, Mexicans celebrate and honor the Irish battalion that defended their country against the invading U.S. in the 1840s. We're going after Canada now. Does Canada? Boxing Day. So maybe Boxing Day will be a big deal. There is a wall in Mexico City with a memorial plaque for the Irish. By the way, guys, let me know if my audio sounds good. I don't know if I'm screaming or not. Mexico City has a memorial plaque for the Irish, but these were not just any Irishmen. They were members of the Brigada San Patricio, the St. Patrick's Brigade. And they gave their life for the Mexican struggle against the aggressors, us, the bad guys, the United States. But that was the 1840s. Potato famine was ravaging Ireland. Hundreds of thousands of Irish citizens were immigrating to the U.S. in search of better life. Thank you, Denise. I appreciate that. in search of a better life abroad, opportunity, and hope. That sounds familiar. We welcome everyone, right? Many enlisted in the United States Army, but in the 1840s, the United States, the Irish were second-class people if their white skin helped them blend in. Their accents did not. They were ridiculed and discriminated against for their accents and their Catholic faith. And I just found this out while listening to Ross, that apparently St. Patrick used the three-leaf clover to explain the Catholic-based Trinity. I did not know that. What's Wendell say? Keep up, Glenn. You said the world was not going to end tomorrow, and I said it was Saturday. Well, nope. We'll get into why it may soon, but no, not for the moment. We're good. So many were sent. We're still talking about the Irish in their Catholic faith. Were sent to fight the front lines, Mexico. The U.S. president at the time was James Polk and promised to expand U.S. territory by any means necessary. Sounds familiar. When the U.S. declared war on Mexico in 1846, it was a war for land, for manifest destiny. But for many of the Irish sent to the front lines, they were fighting for a country that was not their own, and this war of conquest didn't sit right. They identified not with Uncle Sam, Uncle Sugar as we call him, that's because they're always giving stuff away, but with the Mexicans defending their land against a foreign aggressor. It reminded them of their own fight back home and the rights to defend the Catholic Ireland against the Protestant British. Like the Irish, the Mexicans were also Catholic and seen as an inferior religion for the invading army. In Mexico, the Irish watched homes burn, violence, looting, and sexual assault by U.S. soldiers. War is war, no matter what time period. Remember, this was the 1840s. They were noticed, so they defected. Hundreds left the red, white, and blue and joined the Mexican army. Interesting. I did not know this. They were known as the St. Patrick's Brigade, or the Colorados, for their red hair. As many as 800 people would join the St. Patrick's Brigade. They fought under Irish Captain John Raleigh, and they weren't just Irish, a band of foreigners from a dozen countries across Europe, many of them Catholics. Remember the great Roman Empire that turned into the Catholic Church? So they marched under the green flag of St. Patrick's with the harp and shamrocks and the Irish words Erin go bragh embossed across it, which stands for Ireland forever. They fought in Monterrey, Matamoros, and several other major battles. Churubusco, I'm probably butchering this, and Mexico City was the last. Even as the U.S. ranks gained the upper hand and the Irish ran out of bullets, their brigade pushed on. They tore down the white flag of surrender and battled with their bare hands. Many bodies were left on the battlefield. The rest were taken and executed by American officers as traitors for deserting the ranks in the U.S. Army. But they are still remembered. From Ireland to Mexico, memorials still tell of their bravery. Stories are still told, songs are still sung. It's funny how a lot of history and tradition is done in music. In Mexico, they have their own remembrance, September 12th, which honors the St. Patrick's Battalion, and of course, St. Patrick's Day across Mexico. People lift a glass to the brigade of Irish soldiers who fought to defend Mexican soil against the U.S. invasion and the many who gave their lives. In recent years, Mexico City has even illuminated the city's Angel of Independence monument in green light to remember the St. Patrick's Brigade and their sacrifice for Mexico. All right, well, that's interesting. I did not know that. You learn something new every day, and that's interesting. All right, so that is your St. Patrick's Day brief. And we're not trying to take them over anymore. I think it's another country we're trying to take. We're going to send, what did I say? We're going to send the, I don't know what button I pushed. We're going to send the mouse. We're going to invade Newfoundland with the mammoth mouse. That's right. So, all right. Well, while we were apart, there was a powerful storm and actually came through East Tennessee and it was horrible. But it swept across the country late last week and through the weekend across the East Coast with severe weather, bringing torrential rain, tornadoes. The storm left a trail of destruction. I was watching one news weatherman and said that The first hurricane tornado was 2 miles wide, and I believe it was Mississippi, and another one followed the exact same path, and he was frantically telling everybody, call everybody and tell them to get back to their shelter, because they figured people thought they were safe because the storm had passed. But another tornado equally as wide and devastating was following the exact same path. So that monster is one of many that has left 40 people dead across the South and Midwest. So it's monster storms. It was horrible. They said there was at least 2 EF4 tornadoes, which I think 5 is the highest. I'm not sure. Hurricane force winds even battered the East Coast. And of course, we'll talk about this later. It was a major concern in fire threat across the plains. Yeah, there was fires in many regions, but yeah, we'll get into that with our fire news. But yeah, it was pretty nasty. All right, we discussed this, but this was one of the particular fires that was trending. A storm caused tornadoes and a boat fire in Pender County. This is up in the Northeast. The aftermath of the deadly storms and violent tornadoes, high winds, and thunderstorms. And it touched down and caught a boat on fire in the Wilmington area on Sunday. Sunday. Amount of thunderstorms and high winds, part of the severe weather that caused tornadoes and damage in several southern states, reached the region late Sunday afternoon. Lightning strikes sparked a boat fire in Hampstead, while a tornado was confirmed Sunday night around Rocky Point. The National Weather Service in Wilmington confirmed an EF1 tornado touched down near Rocky Point. And as Monday, this is in New Hampshire, there was no people injured. Well, it didn't say injured. Let's see. No fatality. No, it says no injuries. So let's see. Wendell says the Romans invented concrete that set underwater. Okay. And Chris, yes, you have two tornadoes hit your town in one day. You do not have the luck of the Irish. No, they did not. I was watching it, trying to keep up a little bit with the news and stuff that was going on, and it was horrible. All right, so we'll get into a little bit of news. To start off, that was trending. One of the things, if you follow the news, the White House declared a decision to ignore a judge that left a plane full of deported criminals continue to El Salvador. So what this stems around is there's a judge, he was a federal judge, and he declared that they needed to return, and he was blocking it. But the Trump administration says it disregarded a judge's order to turn around to plane loads, deep breath, of Venezuelan criminals, because the flights at the time were over international water, and therefore the ruling does not apply, or did not apply, Axios is saying, citing 2 senior officials, one who made it clear that it's very important that the people understand we are not actively denying court orders. The Trump administration argues that the U.S. District Judge James Boasberg overstepped his authority when he issued an order blocking the president from deporting roughly 250 alleged Tren de la Hagra gang members under the Alien Enemies Act of 1789. It's a wartime crime, or it's a wartime law that gives the president, the executive branch, immense power to deport non-citizens without judicial hearing. Though this will be headed to the Supreme Court, no doubt, I'm sure that we're going to win. That's the White House speaking, not me. That's what they told Axios. It's the showdown that was always going to happen between the 2 branches of government. And it seemed that it was pretty clean. You have Venezuelan gang members, bad guys. Okay. Of the 250, I think they broke it down. I saw somewhere. I think the least crime that many of them had committed was sexual assault on people, and especially children. That was the least of the 250 people's crimes, according to the stat I saw. So this will go to the Supreme Court. Child porn was the least of the offenses of the 250 deported. We'll show pictures of them after a while. Let's see. So many of them had been arrested, put in jail, released by judges, back on the street, and had committed crimes yet again. So they were really not good guys or girls. They were bad people, so they needed to be expelled, according to the U.S. president. So, and some people, Representative Mike Collins, said it's ridiculous that a Democrat president can import violent gang members, but a president can't deport them. Good point. Good point. So, what's good for one should be good for the other, right? You open the door for one, at the same time, the other one should be able to close the door. If you were following space, you saw that aliens came aboard the International Space Shuttle when the latest crew 10, I believe it was, came aboard. Sonny Williams, one of the new astronauts, came aboard, floated aboard the International Space Station wearing an alien mask. I thought that was great. So, and I believe currently, I'll have to check, but I believe the crew that was stranded for such a long period of time is now headed home. I hope they're safe and sound. I'll have to check up on that. Crew 10 recently launched their joint mission to bring the two astronauts who've been stranded on the ISS since June back down to Earth, but with greeting them with an extraterrestrial prank. The video posted on X of the newly arrived crew members greeted Wilmore, 58, and Williams, 60, by wearing an alien mask. The crew members playfully folded his arms while nodding towards the duo, who briefly laughed at the costume before they gave the camera a thumbs up. Shortly afterwards, they delivered their alien surprise. 4 more astronauts assigned to the long-awaited mission, Anne McLean, Nicole Ayers, Takusha Anicia, and Carol Peskoff, then entered the hatch of the spacecraft and happily embraced Williams and Wilmore. Crew 10 had a great journey up there, McLean 45 said in a clip shared by the space station. It only took about 28 hours to complete the first half of the mission. Good Lord, that's a long time to be sitting in a chair and basically you're not in control. Someone else is. Yes, I imagine without hairspray, so would mine, Chris. Her hair is definitely wild without gravity. The Ellen Ripley inspired prank is a lighthearted welcomes for William and Wilmore, whose flight home was initially set for March 12th. However, NASA announced in the press release earlier this month that the mission will be delayed 2 days due to a hydraulic system leak. I think we talked about that. I'm not sure. But the crew got there on the 14th, and the mission seemed, no, they got there, no, 14th. I don't know. This seems to be running smoothly, and it said that they would return on the 19th pending weather conditions. So I believe I saw last night, overnight, they were planning on disembarking the International Spaceship in, Rocket X, and coming home. So hopefully that got underway. I don't know if it was or not. Mid concerns on Earth, however, they're fearing that up at the ISS, experienced astronauts push back against Donald Trump's suggestion they had been virtually abandoned. We talked about this last week. They didn't feel abandoned, using the president's quote. They felt like they were getting in some extra time. And I got to admit, you're up there in space. You might as well, you're stuck. But you're not abandoned. You got food, supplies, you got clothes, you got rations. Have some fun, do a little work. Can't cash your paycheck, so imagine how big your paycheck will be when you come home. So looking forward to them returning to home. They had a great crew up there, and the replacements will be just as good, and hopefully we'll get them back safely here on Earth soon. You'll notice when they land, we'll cover that when they do land, you'll see that they'll be greeted by lots of men in hazmat suits. And that's pretty much standard protocol, but it always freaks the conspiratorial people out that there's some alien slime that got on it that we have to spray off. No, it's first off, it's very hot to the touch. Second off, you want to cleanse it, I guess. That's not the proper word. Decontaminate it from any possible contaminants. And then when they exit the spacecraft, it's going to take a period of time, because let's remember, for so long, their body has been used to weightlessness. So it's going to take them a while to get acclimated. And a lot of times they have to be carried out under stretchers. So they like to just tent that off so the public can't see. It takes them a little bit of time to get their acclimation back to Earth. So don't panic. It'll be okay. Well, we will cover that when we can. All right. Back to my normal cup of tea here. Look at this. The daily operations briefing. Elon, what are you doing? FEMA's behind again. This is Sunday. This is not today. We should have Monday's update, but 8:30 a.m. Sunday. What is it now? It's 13:22 on the East Coast. FEMA, what are you doing? We're not updated here, but we will, nevertheless, cover what they're talking about, even though we're a day behind. Thank you, FEMA. Always good to know you're on time. So this is over the weekend, national current operations and things they are monitoring. Of course, at that time, they were concerned about the severe weather and wildfire, and they were going to monitor heavy snow in the Pacific Northwest. And they do have some declaration activities in Oklahoma and in Texas. I assume that may be why it's delayed, because they probably got a few more over the weekend. We can pretty much ignore this national weather forecast and look at Monday over here, which will show larger, but that snow is coming. It's cold here in the South. What happened? We were in the 80s. It was so nice, and the storm came through. But yeah, nonetheless, today there's no severe weather expected, just snow and rain, mainly in the Midwest and the West. So the tornado outlook, well, yeah, that was pretty close. It did trend across the Panhandle all the way up to New England area, and as we read and talked about earlier, even up in New Hampshire. Fire weather outlook, we'll update this. This is pretty accurate, though, speaking of tomorrow. And this is pretty much just covering the severe weather over the weekend, which we really already know about. But they are going to be covering this probably in greater depth, the fires and the tornadoes. Of course, we look down here in Mississippi, Alabama, Arkansas, all the way up to where you are, Chris, in Illinois and Indiana. There was some severe storms. So Wendell says the hull is probably radioactive. I don't know if I would say it's radioactive, but it definitely has the potential to carry some isotopes from space that here on Earth would probably not be good if they got out. But I wouldn't necessarily say radioactive, because coming in, the temperatures are so extreme, it burns most things off. So the carbon is probably the worst part of everything it does burn off. But that space slime, from what's the Marvel character? Venom. That's how he came to Earth, wasn't it? I have to go back and look. I don't remember. We'll talk about all these fires and everything since FEMA is leaving us out of the loop. But we see over the weekend, Oklahoma had some large fires. These were storm related, and they've changed since this Sunday briefing. So Oklahoma had a lot of fires. Barn fire in Oklahoma, which turned into a much larger brush fire. So yeah, Oklahoma and Texas right now have some pretty big fires. And Monday, none of those areas are going to get much rain. So they're saying that the next 6 to 10 day outlook, that up in the Midwest, the Northwest, they're expecting lower than normal temperatures, while it will be above normal all the way from the Great Plains to Texas. And we're going to be normal here on the East and the Southeast and the Mid-Atlantic. Well, right now it's cold. I went outside to vape and it was crazy. So, yeah, I was surprised how cold it was out there. So, all right. So that is that. Space weather outlook. We talked about this. There was some communications outage, and I heard Ross talking about he's going to be on shortwave. I hope he brings me along for the ride. A lot of times the HF is the short wave, half wave, long wave, medium wave. It's always impacted, but it was affected over the weekend by the corona clouds ejected, is it clouds? The plasm and clouds ejected, the solar storm ejected that hit Earth, and it has caused some communication blackouts, mainly over South America, Africa, up in the Baltic area, crossing over to almost the Antarctica region, back down across the coast of Newfoundland. That was over the weekend. And we'll talk about this tomorrow because this is all going to change where people are and what's going on with this storm. It's going to be a much different map tomorrow. Hopefully tomorrow. So we'll see all kinds of new declarations and requests from the storms. So, all right, let's see. Well, Sunday last night, I noticed the president, in fact, well, I meant to pull it up. Last night, the president left Mar-a-Lago and was not returning back until almost midnight. If you see here, he got back at midnight last night. So, yeah, he had a busy weekend down in Mar-a-Lago. But he was still working, as we know. Wherever the president goes, they have all the stuff he needs to keep us safe. So what does he have on the docket for today? 9 a.m. in-pool camera time for the press. I can tell you, if you followed any of the headline news, any of them, you saw this fellow was busy well before 9 a.m. There was going to be a press briefing at 1300. They should be about 30 minutes into it. And today the president is en route to the JFK Performing Arts Center, the Kennedy Center, at 2:45. And it doesn't really say, let's see what he's going to do there. He's going to be there and he's going to participate in a board meeting and tour. That's right. They have a new board because he fired all of them. And now there's brand new board and he's the chief executive, I believe, of the Kennedy Center. So he'll be over there performing the CEO duties while he's pretending. Ooh, Ross will get me on that one. While he is president. So, and we'll return at 5:15 back to the White House. All right. Let's see here. Let's make this bigger again because on my screen it looks so much tinier. So the FAA is concerned and they issued a statement over the environmental take on SpaceX. They have requested more launches and a new landing pad. In Orlando, Florida, is where the story is breaking. If SpaceX gets its way, the Space Coast will get a lot more rocket rumbles, sonic booms, as the company increases Falcon 9 launches and builds new launching pads at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in the Kennedy Space Center. If you ever get a chance to go down there, make sure you go to Merritt Island National Park. It's a unique park because, first off, it's on the Space Force base. Secondly, they have a driving tour of the park, and you get a real feel for the Florida environment. And you can see a lot of the creatures out in the wild, just like you can in the Smoky Mountains. If you go to Cades Cove and do the loop, it's similar there at Merritt Island. Cades Cove, you could probably get out and take pictures of the bears. I wouldn't get out and take pictures of the alligators in Merritt Island National Park. But if you ever get a chance, go there. It's a great park. It's actually probably my first favorite, with Cades Cove following right behind. I know Cades Cove has a spooky history that I've talked about on the paranormal shows, but I have never looked to see if Merritt Island has any. Surely it does, being that right there by a space base. And if you're into the Bigfoot stuff, you will find that there could be a skunk ape down there. So at any rate, FAA is partnered with the Air Force, Coast Guard, and NASA for the assessment for the lead agencies, while NASA will be the lead agency for the assessment that is expected for spring for the Launch Complex 39 Alpha, where SpaceX wants to increase launches from 20 to 36, with up to 5 of its larger Falcon heavy rockets each year. The construction of the pair of new landing pads on the Space Coast would solve the company's reliance on 2 landing pads at Canaveral's Launch Complex 13. It will soon lose access. That space has been set aside by the Federal Space Force as a future launch site for 2 other commercial launch providers, Phantom Space and Via Space. One of those two is working to get a hotel built in space. I think it's a horrible idea. Space Force's goal is to have SpaceX and other launch providers maintain landing sites at the same place from which they will launch. Actually, be cost saving for us because they're going to build it and we get to use it when we launch our new whatever it is that we're going to be launching after the Challengers and Columbias, all of those spacecraft. So whatever our new one is, I think our new one will probably be X-39B, which is about the size of the space shuttle, but it's a drone. So that's probably going to be our next one. It's been in space for about the past 3 years doing tests. Of course, it's all classified tests. So we'll see. Hopefully that will be our next one, but we don't know. So the study is going to talk about SpaceX and their growth and the effect on the environment and the facilities, with the FAA taking the lead drafting the environmental assessment. So we can check that out when it's released, but the Air Force is already starting to release some of its finding where they state no significant impact, but FAA is going to make the final determination, and we will be able to see that ruling here in the very near future. Of course, they're concerned, like I said, about the wetland in the area. They're worried about a Florida scrub jay and the southeastern beach mouse. Well, we got the woolly mouse, so why are we worried about it? So, but anyhow, and they say that too much wetland are those two animals are a flight safety concern. A mouse is a flight safety concern. Okay. So, all right. So you can check out the 116-page draft document that the FAA has already got and see. I will go ahead and just download that so that we can talk about it. Yeah, we'll just save it right there. That'll be good. We can talk about that in a soon to be show. All right, go away. Go away. I want you to leave now. Leave the screen. Leave the screen. Yes, leave the screen. How do I get rid of this? Oh my gosh. I've broke the computer. X. That's what I want. X right there. There we go. All right. So we talked about that with Space Coast. All right. We'll get into some of our stuff here. So we'll have our National Weather Service daily briefing since, well, FEMA didn't give us one. I guess it's my job. Maybe FEMA should pay me. We looked and see over the California coastline, extending all the way up into Wyoming and Montana, is a band of rain snow mix, and that coming down from the Canadian Great Frontier into Minnesota and Wisconsin is a little bit of snow, and the remnants of the storms that ravaged much of the country over the weekend are making their way off of the Maine coastline up into Nova Scotia. But many of them, the bad stuff is now offshore, so it is now just pretty much rain. And the next front coming through, which we'll see on the wind, is going to be next week. It could be the potential for just as bad storms. All right, so we'll talk about the fire danger, and here in a second, actually, we will see the NASA fire map. But this is, since we don't get to see this as often, this is the drought monitor of the United States. And I'm sorry, Australia, I forgot to, well, I'll check your radar here in just a minute. We see here that much of the Southwest is under a drought to extreme drought, while much of the East Coast, extending pretty much down to from the mid-Atlantic down into the South, is under a moderate to extreme drought. And a lot of times, I know Atlanta, they keep saying we're in a drought, but it's constantly raining. A lot of this is based on population as well. So Atlanta may show up in an extreme drought, even though we have had rains for so long, but we don't have enough water for the population, so therefore the government considers it a drought. So many states across the Midwest, The upper Midwest, the Great Plains are experiencing droughts, even up into Vermont, where I follow the weather frequently. We all know why. My son lives up there. Um, they're considered to be in a drought, even though he sent me a picture. He started shoveling snow around my grandchild's playground area, and the snow, when he dug it out, was taller than my youngest granddaughter, or I guess she would be my oldest granddaughter, my oldest grandchild. And she's roughly 4, so she's like 3.5 feet tall. So it there was a lot of snow around the playground. So, but they're still considered to be in a drought. So, all right, Alaska, you have just a little bit of drought along, of all places, the coastline. Hawaii, you have a drought. It's kind of odd to think you're on an island and you're in a drought. It's just weird to me, but all right. So there is the drought. And that'll bring us next to, well, where the fires are. We see the pink area shaded here, which is extending pretty much along the U.S. southern border, almost to the top of the upper part of the Midwest, but really staying down in the Great Plains where they are worried about extreme fire weather. Oklahoma was getting ravaged with fires. We see here that there's several large fires pretty much across the Midwest that they're battling at this time. And so we can get them under control with more rain. But the problem was the high winds. There wasn't enough rain, and the high winds extended a lot of these fires. So Wendell, down in your part of the world, we see the red dots. And if you look at the red dots, remember, this is what the satellite has seen, but boots on the ground does not necessarily confirmed that it's a fire. The corner of Atlanta in Georgia, I'm sorry, Atlanta in Georgia, Georgia and Tennessee and Alabama, there's 2 fires. Up in the Smoky Mountains, there's 1 fire. And I think I pulled this story up, but there's about to be a war. I'll pull this area over here where we got it up. Between Tennessee, Alabama, and Georgia. Yes, there was going to be a legal battle because Georgia claims that they were not surveyed right, and they have improperly been punished and have therefore had their state lines reduced. In other words, Georgia says that part of Tennessee and Alabama is theirs, and they're seeking through civil law at this time and asking for congressional help to extend the state line further into Tennessee and further west into Alabama. I can't wait to see how the judges rule and how Congress rules on that. That's going to be interesting. If you ask Bobby Dizzle, he remembers a timeline where it was not the way it was, and that almost up to Chattanooga was part of Georgia, and he said now it's in Tennessee. So Bobby Dizzle thinks that's the case. Let's see here. Denise, up in your part of the world, there's really no significant fire issues. Over in your part of the world, Chris, you're right on that borderline area where there could be some dangerous storms. In the fire hazard is greater there. And down where Brenda is in Texas, there's all kinds of fires on the ground already. So that's for, I think, everybody that's watching. If anybody's got a special request to zoom in on their area, let me know. But as we talked about, most of the Dakotas, North and South Dakota, extending all the way almost to St. Louis in the Midwest, is under extreme fire watch. And then you look down here at the Texas border, there's several large fires with Arkansas, Oklahoma, and it's kind of a sloppy mess down there. Let's see what Wendell says. Wendell says the Georgia line at one time reached all the way to the Mississippi. Yes, if you look back on some of the much older maps, you will see that the Carolinas once were one, and that Georgia almost went all the way across the country at the time. Yeah, it's crazy. Wendell, I knew you would ask about this, so I brought this one up. This is the earthquake map, the most recent ones in the United States. We have one in Kansas. It was a 3.0. That was today. And out on the West Coast, where they're always shaking and rattling, they had one yesterday in Lake Pillsbury, down in the lower California region. Malibu, they had a 3.9 yesterday. And in Enza, am I saying that right? Enzea, they had one yesterday of a 2.6. So that's the most recent ones. Up here in Alaska, we often forget about them. They had one earlier today in, why did I bring this one up? I can't pronounce the name. Katovik, Alaska, which was 4.1. Down on the southern border in Willow, they had one yesterday of a 2.5. In Sunrise, Alaska, they had one earlier today of a 2.8. Extending over west, down into Solomon Island, they had a 3.5. And down there, those little tiny islands we forget about, Rat Island, had a 4.4. They said at one point in time, these islands extended all the way over Bering Sea to Russia, and that you could almost walk there. It's hard to believe, isn't it? All right, so that is your earthquake update. Let's hop down to make sure Australia hasn't had any earthquakes. They have not. All right, so, and I did not bring up the radar for Australia. I said I was going to. I'll get it. Trust me, I'll get it. All right, so yeah, we're almost an hour in here, and I've got I got to get caught up here. All right, so this is our interactive map of air quality, and it actually doesn't look too bad today. Where I'm at in East Tennessee, it's pretty clear. Chris, where you are, you've got some little moderate air up there. Wendell says it still looks like Alaska is splitting in half. Well, those earthquakes keep up. Down along the southern coast in Monterey, there's some moderate weather, and up along the northwest, there's some moderate air. Los Angeles and San Francisco, well, sorry, but your air quality is not that great. I know here in the South, it has entered pollen season. Yay. Yay. So, yay. All right. So here's our current weather map. This does show earthquakes, but these are the older ones, so I didn't highlight them. We see that snowstorm is growing, and the winter weather is going to be crossing down across Washington and Oregon through the Midwest into the Great Plains, and eventually it'll reach all the way over to the Rockies. The other storm is making its way off the coast. The most severe stuff is already off the coast, with just Maine having the heaviest part of the rain right now. We'll skip down to Australia and check you guys out. And by the way, if any of my Australian listeners would like to email me, sportcat@protonmail.com, or you can get in touch with me through the Yerg's Radio Network. I would like to know what your conspiracy theories are on the cyclone. I watched a video last night that said that there were some lasers and lights that came out of the storm, and I don't really feed into these conspiracy theories that much. Go away, Twitch viewer. But it did bring up something that even Chris and I had talked about, how, remember, the storm turned and then it sat there and we weren't expecting it to impact Brisbane. Well, supposedly, according to this conspiracy theory, these blue rays pushed the storm to go further to the south and then over to the west. I'd like to know what some of the listeners think. I personally don't know if I buy into it, but I don't live there. But they showed pictures of the Gold Coast. Wow, the erosion was probably 4 to 5 foot. I did not expect that. And they were showing, prior to the storm, some of the water in the southwest, southeast part of the Gold Coast had been sucked away almost like a tsunami in a video. So interesting. I don't know if I buy into it, but I'd like to know from any of my Australian listeners. I'm always into the paranormal conspiracy world. And like we had talked about, Chris and I even mentioned it, it had that odd phallic shape, and then it did that weird turn and then just stopped, and it wasn't being forecast that way. And I don't know. So let me know what you think. Anyhow, Australia, Brisbane, you're getting a little bit of rain today. Doesn't look like it's going to be a great deal, but I know you're still dealing with the flooding. So I hope that you're okay down there. Down in Sydney, you're going to have a little bit of rain coming on shore, but once again, it's going to be light. But the flooding is still an issue for you guys. Over in the central part of Australia, some light rain. You're going to need that in South Australia with those wildfires. In the Northern Territories, the far northern territories are going to have a little bit of rain coming inshore, but it doesn't look like anything significant unless you're along the coastline up there along Darwin. It looks like they're going to get hammered with some severe thunderstorms. As the daylight increases, that will probably intensify a little bit coming ashore. So keep your eyes open for that. Over on Western Australia, up in the northwest section, you've got one cell that's trying to merge with another one. It's going to come on shore. Could be a little nasty later in the day as temperatures heat up, so be weather aware there. So, but that is your current weather radar for Australia. Up in Papua New Guinea, it looks like they have quite some storms up there. There is another cyclone, but it is affecting Asia, or is it affecting Africa? I can't remember. Or is it South America? I don't remember. I looked at it. It was Cyclone Jude that they were concerned about, but I didn't really cover it because we don't have much of a listenership there. Believe it or not, I have a listenership in Ukraine. Not really sure why, but Ukraine, aside for shells falling down on you along the southwestern coast of Russia, Ukraine, there's going to be some rain, but it's moving more to the southwest. I don't know why I have such a 3% following in Ukraine, but I appreciate all of you. I appreciate all of my fans, all of my listeners. Trust me, through the hard times, it's good to know you have friends when you get comments. So, all right, so we're going to hop over to the weather warning. This, once again, is public data. Anyone can get it. So this is the most, for the first time today, pulled it up on my laptop, and I'm doing something else, and then this voice has started in my head. Aside from the normal ones, weather warnings, the AI telling me all these that you read on the left side, it was reading them off to me. I'm like, stop. I got enough voices in my head. I don't need any more, huh? All right. So basically, we're going to be looking at the watches, small craft advisory. That's going to be down on the Carolina coast. And it's going to actually, that's probably going to extend almost all of the North Carolina coast, South Carolina coast, all the way up to the northern coastline. It's going to break there right at that little point, which is actually one of the most southern point tips Oak Island is of United States, not Key West. Let's see, Cape Fear, North Carolina. Yeah, we just talked about that. Is the Gale Coastal Water Small Craft Advisory. I saw over the weekend Oak Island had their first water rescue. Denise, up by where you are, there's some flooding concerns, although they're minor in Hamilton, New York. I'm not sure. You're further over towards Long Island. Rip currents down off of the Texas coastline in the Gulf of America. Is something that we're to be concerned about. South Dakota wind. So lots of wind in the South Dakota. We're worried about the firestorms. Maryland, Andy's testing again. I don't know why. So there's a special marine warning. Wendell says you should talk to my friend River Morris near Queensland. Well, Wendell, you need to tell him to turn on Radio X in Australia and tune in the Sportcat Daily Gazette. Special marine warning. This is off of the coastline of South. Window, you got me confused. San Francisco and it's pretty much all of the San Francisco Bay area is under a special marine warning. So it looks like there's going to be some tough coastal waters there on the West Coast. And Vermont, flood. That's up where my son lives. And that's due to the rain. And something that I have learned from two of my, family and friends, mud season is about to begin in Vermont and parts of Colorado. And that's what causes the flooding. The special weather statement in California, we talked about Iowa, Illinois, and Missouri. A special weather statement, probably more for the winds than anything. Yep, windy conditions are expected across eastern Iowa, northwest Illinois, northeast Missouri, and sometimes they could gust up to 25 to 50 miles per hour as the strongest. So be weather aware in the Midwest. And let's see, those are the most recent ones. Wyoming high winds, yes, because of the storms, and flood warnings in Maine, New Hampshire. That doesn't surprise me. High wind watch in Colorado, um, especially the most elevated sections of Colorado is an area of concern. So be weather aware there. Red flag warnings in Illinois, Missouri, New Mexico. That's for the winds and fire. So we're worried about that. Oklahoma, obviously, we discussed the fire warning. Winter storm watch. It's going to be ugly. Winter storm is returning with the higher elevations up in Nebraska and Kansas are going to be experiencing some severe winter weather. It's going to be up to 2 or 4. Actually, they call it moderate. They do say severe, 2 to 4 inches. Oh, and we're pretty much back to where we started, where they just updated them from earlier. So that is weather warning. You can go check them out. I am not affiliated. They don't give me any money to use their site, and I don't get anything from it. But I think it's a great service that they do, and you can actually give them a tip if you like them. Weather warning, weather, wxwarn.affirmtech.com. Check them out. All right, we're almost to our favorite map. This is the wind map of the United States. And I pulled this up about 2 hours ago. So can I do this without having to? Let's see. Yeah, okay. All right, so here I brought it up to date. The highest wind at the current time is almost 40 miles per hour. That's probably in this little vortex up here in the Great Plains, I would imagine. Let's see. This actually gives you a little bit. You can zoom in on it, but most of the airflow current is coming from down along South America out into the Gulf of America. There's a little dry area right here that starts pretty much from the Appalachians down to Alabama and then drops straight down through the middle of the South, where there's a lot of wind coming off of the mountains, but it's kind of a little dry area right there. So be aware there. And along the Pacific, most of the moisture and wind is coming inland. It's going at northeast until it meets that vortex, and it's cycloning along up into the Great White North, where it is being brought back down as cold air to us. All right, and our favorite, let me fix this because this is a great map, but I like the ocean view. I'm sorry, the globe view. We'll put it back on. I currently have it on waves. Put it back on wind. I have been playing with this in my spare time here, and I really love this Earth map of wind. And you can do so much with it. You can pull up the currents and you can pull up the waves too. So Chris says, welcome back, beautiful 3D map. Yes, agreed. So pull it up, and it looks much similar in the in the AI whirlwind map, but it is much cooler, and you can see how the strongest that'll trough down along the Appalachia and the Atlantic coast from that storm being pushed off is kind of pushing the air down into, well, that would be what, Panama, down into there, but it's a little cyclone effect where it troughs back up over the Texas coastline and the Gulf of America, following the Rockies, extending up into Great White North, while we're getting the the winds coming off of the water of the Pacific Northwest coming down almost into the lower California region before that trough is pulling them up across the Rockies. So yes, I do love this map. and that's why I decided to put it on my opening. Let's see, I can make it bigger. Let me do that because I know this is everybody. This is the fan favorite. If you're listening on Radio X Australia, Yerg's Radio, Rainbow Radio, or later on the day on replay of the show, you can find the world wind map and pull it up. It's AI and the wind map combined, and you can set it to globe and spin it around and see the wind, our waves, anywhere in the world. Let's go down to Australia and see what's going on with the wind down there. All right, so Australia, it looks like much of the, let's see, this would be your southwest, is pulling a kind of little trough down along the islands there and extending out, while it is also coming from the east, being sucked over to the west, slightly, not at a great significant speed. Looks like that little front off the shore there is keeping it from being too much, but it's kind of a little cyclonic event along the coastline of the, would be the southwest. And the winds are extending from the east to the west, but they're kind of mild on Australia right now. Yeah, we can pull this up to look at the waves too. Just, we don't have much time, but the waves are kind of cool. It still keeps the wind there, but it doesn't animate them. And you can see the wave movement in the world. Where are we at? We're over here on this part of the globe in America. It's kind of cool. I'm not going to attempt to pull up the, well, if we get time, I will. The world temperature map, that was the one that crashes my home computer. I don't want to test it on the laptop, but the warm water is not quite yet there on the coastline for the beaches yet. Maybe parts of the Gulf of America down in the southern tip of Florida in the Panhandle area is not ready yet for swimming. Spring break is underway in Panama, Jacksonville, Daytona. I know the beach is already full, but it's a little cold unless you're down around Miami. So, but there's the current wave map. You can see that the Gulf is just kind of doing the Gulf thing, and high tide's coming in and it's extending out to the Keys, and the waves are coming down. And that cyclonic event really is pushing the warmer winds or the warmer waves up from the equator, but not quite yet far enough to go swimming yet. I was telling Mrs. Sportcat we need a trip to Miami, and I will be dark. Ross will have my shows for those days, because when I go to the beach, I'm going to take some time for me and Mrs. Sportcat. So I've been in Tennessee so long, she deserves a beach trip. Or maybe she's just glad to get rid of me. Don't know. She may be glad to be rid of me. All right, the high winds across Missouri in the storms. We still have 22,038 people without power, and these are the greatest in yellow with 10,000 plus. Pennsylvania, because you experienced the storms most recently, you currently have 49,000 people out. New York, you have 18,000 out. So hopefully that gets restored. It looks like it's even extending down into, pull this up here, even extending. Okay, it's more along the, what would that be, the northwest portion. I can't pronounce some of these. Tompkins and Stedabin are the areas with the greatest power outages in New York. All right, let's bring this down here. And we'll X this one. All right, so we have a lot to talk about since it's been a couple days in world events. Not only was it the weekend, but it was just crazy. The world went nuts over the weekend. All right, so let's see. Let's start up in the Northeast. We'll jump over into New York, over towards Rochester, and they are talking about the storm damage there. 18 different events. We dropped down into Pennsylvania. It's still going to be storm damage, I'm sure. Let's see what we have here. Hail. Yeah, it's all, most of this is going to be storm damage all the way, Chris, into your area. Oh, no. An explosion. When was this? This was on Saturday. It's an explosion. Surrounding explosions in the United States. 3 men seriously injured in an explosion and house fire in Lake County, Indiana. Okay. I was expecting it to be storm when it popped up explosion. I was shocked. Over in Ohio, It's still in the winter storm down into Tennessee. Still going to be the severe weather. Somewhere I thought I saw. I'll pull it back up, or I'll extend it back out. In Cheyenne over in West Virginia. I gotta close that first. Nope. Storm. North Carolina, storm damage, hail and storms. Somewhere I thought I saw something else, but maybe not. Public safety incident. 2 dead, 1 injured in Rocky Mount. Boy, it's such a small town in North Carolina to have that kind of violence. That was yesterday, last night, actually. Let's see, down here in the beach line, we're going to start talking about a lot of incidents around spring break. It's kind of crazy. Well, they're not really teenagers. The young adults aren't quite old adults yet, and well, they are doing stupid things on the beach. So, yeah. I know I was watching On Patrol over the weekend, and they had several people in Daytona Beach that were shot on the beach because of somebody playing cards or something like that. It's like, come on, you're supposed to be having fun. There's no time for that shenanigans. All right. Not much in the south. Go over to the southwest, and we'll see. Probably this is going to be the fires. Yep, large outdoor fires, wind-driven fires, creating brush fires, most of Texas. Let's see, 5 dead, 11 injured in a multi-vehicle crash yesterday morning, about 24 hours ago. All right, I was not aware of that. More large fires. Let's see, this is probably talking about the measles before it brings it up. Epidemic human. And this is still ongoing. Let's see. Texas, New Mexico border, the measles incident. I did not get a count of the newest number of how many cases were reported. It's over 100. I know that. I think I saw at one point in time it was like 226. So maybe that was in the U.S. only. So 100 in Texas. But yeah, it's still an ongoing thing there. We're going to talk about something else here. Speaking of the epidemic of measles, we're going to be talking more and more about the bird flu and how it's crossing over into our canine and feline friends, mainly our feline friends. And it's caused several recalls of food, and it's also had several feline fatalities. So keep an eye on your pets when they're outside and don't let them fight with the birds. I saw a funny AI generated video of a cockfight versus a toddler, and I do not encourage cockfighting, but the video was funny. The toddler beat the rooster's butt. It was funny. So all right, so it's mainly measles in Texas. That is the big deal. Let's zoom out. Somewhere I thought I saw that there was another transportation incident involving aircraft, and maybe I was mistaken. Go over to California and look at the earthquakes and the wind. Kansas is probably going to be wind-driven storms. Yep, dust storm. And that was yesterday morning, local time for them. So with it being a dust storm, remember with the wind currents, it's going to meet up with the rain, and it's going to have some mud rain probably in the lower states of Alabama, Georgia. So we'll see that in the next couple days, and the conspiracy theorists will go nuts with it. Mud rain, people, mud rain. Remain calm. All right, so that's pretty much the events. Chris, I did forward it to Cheyenne for her to see. So yes, it was funny. If you want, I'll forward it to you too. It was just stupid funny. One of the few things of humor I got over the weekend. So it's been some tough times here. All right. I only bring this map up. We don't usually show this map because this is too much of the doom and gloom of how we're all going to die. But we'll learn later that, the US has a spending problem of $50 billion, and the $50 billion is usually the Department of Defense. So when we stopped bombing countries in the Middle East, we started funding a war with Ukraine. Well, when we stopped funding that, yeah, well, we're going to start bombing Yemen and probably Ireland next. So that's the reason I brought this up. The war machine is always busy. So 3 hours ago, drones have attacked a gas processing plant in Russia. 3 children were wounded in in Ukraine as a result of the Russian shelling. Zelensky has signed a law sending units of the armed forces of the Ukraine to other states during martial law. I don't know what that's about. Russian military intelligence was behind an arson attack on an IKEA store in Vilnius in May of last year, and the suspect is in custody in Poland. Interesting. And says Russia will not allow rotation of IEA personnel into the occupied zone with their nuclear power plant in Ukraine. That's part of the discussion. The Kremlin has confirmed, we'll discuss this here in a little bit, that Trump and Putin are scheduled to speak on Tuesday. And top diplomats of South Korea and Ukraine are discussing reparation to the captured North Korean soldiers. Russian aviation conducted airstrikes in Ukraine. It lists all the regions. And yesterday, there was a push by the armed forces further into Ukraine. This is news I don't typically like to cover, but since we're bombing another country, I thought, why not? So, but most of this is the Russian-Ukraine war, currently and ongoing. I think we only bombed Yemen. It was a pretty small portion of the country for, I don't know. we bombed them a lot, it seemed like, for such a small area of the world. But at any rate, that's the American military might. So there you go. That's the war update, where you can see the Ukraine-Russian war is still ongoing with fighting, shooting, bombings, drones, all the good stuff, and all those words that get me on that list. So, all right. I bring this up only because it's updated since we last spoke. And we look at, this is from wastewater activity for COVID, and we look at areas that are still relatively high. Most of the southern states are high, extending up into the really the Ohio, northeastern Ohio, Atlantic border, all the way over to Illinois. It's pretty high. So COVID is still a real thing, even in Connecticut, down extending into New Jersey, New York, and Pennsylvania. New York, it's actually, Pennsylvania and New York, it's actually very low at the moment. The worst state, and this is probably because of the dry conditions, are currently Oklahoma and South Dakota following it. And it is spreading in Louisiana. Alaska, you're still in the moderate range. Sorry, I do not have any data for our Ukrainian friends. Influenza, well, it's coming to an end, but we can see that it's still kind of sketchy in the South with Alabama and Georgia. Georgia being higher than Alabama, extending over into Mississippi, where it's not as high, but it's getting higher. Some states are not reporting. I don't know why that is. Illinois is still high flu activity, and we can see it's dissipating across the Midwest, except for sections of like Utah, Idaho, up into Washington. But otherwise, it's starting to dissipate some. RSV, that's still very real and current and going on, but it is starting to lessen up with the warm air. You can see pretty much from the Canadian border, Minnesota, Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas, it is still very high, but where it starts to get warmer in the southern region of the country, you see it dissipating. Wyoming is still very high. New Mexico is still very high. That's running with the measles thing too. So yeah. And see, emergency department visits were slightly increased due to the flu in the past month. RSV, not so much. COVID, not so much either. Actually, respiratory viruses were less than COVID. Epidemic threats of COVID pretty much along the Canadian border, with the exception Idaho. Most of these states are declining, and we see that it is still probably because of the weather increasing down in states like Louisiana, Mississippi, but so far it has not changed in the deep South. Only in North Carolina is it growing, but Texas, Arizona, you're all declining. And Alaska, it is growing over there. Influenza, we see it's with that little cold front we talked about, pretty much from Wisconsin declining all the way down to Arizona. But in the states in the South, it's not really doing anything. So there's no real growth of it, but it looks as though it's starting to decline. So good news for flu. And we don't going to look at any of that. All right, so that is that page. Yes, I did want to talk about this. Since it is St. Patrick's Day, I probably should have covered this. Is the Chicago River still dyed green? See a live look at the river. Well, there it is. The Chicago River is going to be green for several days after the dyeing. It is emerald green. If you look on the screen there, this is a live view of the Chicago River. So yes, the Chicago River is still in fact green. It's a tradition that's gone back for many years, with 2025 being no exception. Thousands line the Riverwalk to see the river transform to an emerald green. According to Choose Chicago, the bright green color was only expected to last for a few hours. Throughout, the green hue could remain for days. As of 8:30 a.m. Monday, today, that's local time for Chicago, the shamrock color over the river was still bright as ever. In 2024, the river remained green for several days after dyeing, still appearing emerald even in the following week. And each year, the Chicago Plumbers Union uses boats along the Chicago River using a concoctions, sprays dyed out of plumbing pipes and spout pumps. But the mysterious mixture doesn't come out green. It's actually orange. Once the dye sets, the color changes to green. The date changes each year, but usually occurs the weekend before St. Patrick's Day in 2025. This, what's in the dye? Well, it's remained a mystery. Hopefully it's safe. They say it's environmentally friendly. I don't know, but apparently it's a closely kept secret. This dates all the way back to 1961. So it was apparently they used the dye to detect leaks in the sewer system, but on St. Patrick's Day in 1961, they decided to turn the river green. And if you look at the live look there, you can see the Chicago River is still a nice green color. So there you go. The Plumbers Union in Chicago is responsible for killing all the fish. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know that that's true. It could be true, but don't blame me. All right. So we'll jump into other news here. Here we go. All right. We're not going to sign up for anything. Let's make the screen bigger. I really don't think this is a becoming photo of the president, but the White House showed photos of President Trump in a golf polo wearing his traditional MAGA cap, watching the terrorist strikes over the weekend. White House released photos of President Donald Trump watching the strikes against the Iranian-backed Houthis. How can you be a terrorist organization named Houthi? I'm just asking for a friend. Watching the strike against the Iranian-backed Houthis on Saturday, donning a headset and wearing golf attire. And he's taking action against the Houthis to defend U.S. shipping assets and deter further terrorist attacks. The White House said in a statement, for too long, American economic and national threats have been under assault by the Houthis, not under this presidency. What he's saying is, we're going to bomb the shit out of you. So that's my words, but that's pretty much what he said. So, yeah, we're going to be bombing Yemen and the Houthis. So, yeah, I agree with you, Chris. Why do you sign your own caps? You know, look is really not that great for him. I mean, I know he's an aging male, but I don't know. I'd wear a different color, but whatever. Trump ordered a large-scale air and naval against the Islamic terrorist group in Yemen, targeting their radar, air defenses, and missile system, and sporting his typical red cap and white golf shirt. And yes, he even signs his own. Maybe he gives them out after he signs them. He gives them away to be sold. I have no idea, but I agree. He's a dork. All right. I guess they all have their quirks. So this came straight off the press this morning. This was one of the first things. Trump warns Iran, any shots fired by the Houthis, you will be held responsible. Monday morning, remember I said he was up early. President Trump warned Ireland. He didn't warn Ireland. Sorry, my Irish listeners know. Trump didn't warn you. He warned Iran, the largest state sponsor of terrorism in the world, that any attack by the Iranian-supported Houthis in Yemen, the United States would be viewed as having come from Iran. Last week, we reportedly used two B-2 stealth bombers to strike underground weapons facilities used by the Houthis, a terrorist group based in Yemen that has been responsible for sinking multiple ships and attacking dozens more in the Red Sea and Gulf of Aden through the use of drones. U.S. CENTCOM said the bombers targeted hardened underground facilities housing missiles, weapons, components, and other munitions used to target military and civilian vessels throughout the region. He said, this is President Trump speaking. He said this on Truth Social this morning. Let nobody be fooled. The hundreds of attacks being made by the Houthis, the sinister mobsters and thugs based in Yemen who are hated by the Yemeni people, all emanate from and are created by Iran. Any further attacks or retaliation by the Houthis will be met with great force, and there is no guarantee that the force will stop there. Iran has played the innocent, I'm using my air quotes there, victim of rogue terrorists from which they've lost control, but they haven't lost control, Trump is saying. They're dictating every move, giving them weapons, supplying them with money and highly sophisticated military equipment and even intelligence. Every shot fired by the Houthis will be looked upon from this point forward as being fired from the weapons and leadership of Iran, and Iran will be held responsible and suffer the consequences, and those consequences will be dire, according to Trump's warning. In other words, as I said, $50 billion is not going to Ukraine anymore now that we've got peace there. The war machine needs to spend that $50 billion. So Iran, Yemen, we're going to bomb the shit out of you. Sorry, it's your turn in the hole. Maybe that's not a popular opinion or way of saying it. All right, we talked about this last week, and this is going to probably make its way up to the Supreme Court. Hot off the presses this morning, Trump declares that pardons signed by Biden during his final days in office are void. The president signs his cap personally, but apparently, as we discussed, it was discovered by the archivists at the White House and the National Archives that the only document that was signed by the president by his hand was when he withdrew from the Democrat nomination. That none of the pardons or none of the other executive orders. I question some of that because we see on TV when they get elected that they sit there and they sign stuff. They probably don't know especially him, probably don't know what the hell they're signing, but we can see those. But apparently a lot of these executive orders and the pardons were all auto pen, and the investigation has discovered that he may not even have known, and we saw that was made public through a nighttime interview with one of the current events hosts, that he didn't even know he had signed it. So President Trump announced during the early morning hours on Monday, remember he came back last night at midnight, that the pardons would be void that Joe Biden issued during his final days in office. This is him speaking. I'm using quotes. The pardons that Sleepy Joe Biden gave to the unselected committee of political thugs and many others are hereby declared void, vacant, and of no further force or effect because of the fact that they were done by, quote, auto pen. Trump posted this on social media shortly after midnight. Remember I said he got home. So I agree. President Biden at times didn't know where he was at. It was so visible at times. Good Lord. So in other words, Joe Biden did not sign them, but more importantly, he did not know anything about them. See, that's what's going to be come into question right there. And that's the question the Supreme Court's going to have. I'm going to guess, I don't know that you can summon a president to the Supreme Court, but I'm going to guess if he does, his legal advisors will probably tell him to seek the fifth, plead the fifth. So we'll see. The necessary parting documents were not explained to or approved by President Biden. He knew nothing about them, and the people that did may have committed a crime. Therefore, those on the unselect committee who destroyed and deleted all evidence obtained during their 2-year witch hunt of me, President Trump speaking, and many other innocent people should fully understand that they are subject to investigation at the highest level. Remember, today is also the day that the deputy secretary of the FBI, Dan Bongino, comes into office, and we all know he has an axe to grind with several of those people. So this is going to be a highly political topic for probably the next 2 years. On a morning, a poll was released that Democrat opinion poll was at an all-time low of 29% support for the Democratic Party. So what do they say? You kick them while they're down? Well, apparently that's what we're doing. So the Trump is declaring that all of the pardons issued by crooked Joe Biden are null and void. The post from the president comes after the Heritage Foundation of Oversight Project blew the whistle on Biden using the exact same auto pen signature on multiple pardons issued during his pregnancy. During his presidency. I hope he's not pregnant. It would be so bad. All right. So this is just another post. This describes and in further more what the auto pen is. Basically, the auto pen, you can go online and see in YouTube. NPR has a great story on it. The auto pen is it's now AI, but it used to be actual mechanical arm signing a pen. So you can go back and look at the history. The only time the auto pen was used prior to this for anything of significance was President Barack Obama signed a auto pen remotely in 2011. So we're going to see where this goes. The Constitution nor statute prescribes neither. Okay. As Bloomberg notes, the Justice Department also held in 1929 that neither the Constitution nor statute prescribe the method by which the executive clemency shall be exercised or evidence. So it is wholly up to the president to decide. Well, I have a feeling, yeah, exactly. I'm sorry, Denise there. I have a feeling that it's no longer going to be the FBI or Department of Justice opinion. I believe we're going to see the other branch of power in the United States government, the Supreme Court, will be ruling in on this. So, yeah, we're going to see where this goes. The Supreme Court is going to be the ultimate one for this. We discussed this earlier. Trump will speak with Putin on Tuesday. President Trump has revealed this morning that he plans to speak to Russian President Vladimir Putin on Tuesday amid negotiations to end the war in Ukraine. Trump made the announcement while speaking to reporters on Air Force One returning last night. Remember, I said last night I followed him. It's around midnight when he landed. We will see if we have something to be announced maybe Tuesday. I will be speaking to President Putin on Tuesday. A lot of work has been done over the weekend. We want to see if we can bring that war to an end. On Monday, the Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov confirmed the two leaders are set to speak, but declined to get into specifics, stating, "We never get ahead of events in the contents of conversations between two presidents, and they are not subject to any prior discussion." So we know that they have been working on both sides to get this solved. Let's get this war to an end so we can get to another one. As we discussed, did we already cover this? At least 40 dead over tornadoes and dust storms. Remember, because of the warm weather, they have dust storms. Fierce winds and tornadoes ripped across the country over the weekend, hitting the Midwest and the South. 24 of the deaths were attributed to tornadoes, while wind-fueled dust storms and fires resulted in another 16 deaths and at least 12 people were killed in Missouri, 3 in Alabama, 8 in Kansas, and 6 in Mississippi, 4 in Texas, and 3 in Arkansas, with 4 in Oklahoma. If you do your math, that's up to 40. Tens of thousands of customers are still without power. Well, we see now that's extended more up into Pennsylvania and New York, like we showed there. Missouri got a lot of their power back on overnight. President Trump said Sunday that he had activated the National Guard in response to the storms. Of course, FEMA, probably that's why we didn't have our map this morning. So the president's already hit the button for everybody to go and respond. So they get on the president's. They've done it all the way back to, I think they even did Clinton talking about the response from FEMA. Of course, FEMA was created by Reagan. But you have to remember, it takes time, and you've got to get those people requested by the local state government. So they can't respond until the state asks for help. And so if the state doesn't ask for help, then the Fed can't overstep, at least as far as coming in like that. All right, so we're going to get into this a little bit. Rubio rips censorship advocates for saying pro-terrorist foreigners have First Amendment rights. Once again, I think the Supreme Court's going to have to rule on this, but it is my understanding, as far as our Bill of Rights and our Constitution, those are things guaranteed to us as U.S. citizens. Not if we were to go to England and commit a crime, we would be subject to their laws. If we were to go to Russia and commit a crime, we would be subject to their law, much as these foreign persons coming into our country are subject to our law. Secretary of State Rubin called out those who are supporting pro-Hamas activists. I'm not going to pronounce his name, Mohammed Khalil. I probably got it wrong. First Amendment grounds, while many of them have advocated for censorship online in the past. Rubio made the remarks during a Sunday interview on CBS News Face the Nations with Margaret Brennan when asked about the matter after Kahali was arrested by the Federal Immigration Authority 2 weeks ago. This is him quoting Secretary Rubio. I find it ironic that a lot of these people out there defending the First Amendment speech, alleged free speech rights of these Hamas sympathizers, they had no problem pressuring social media to censor American political speech. So I think it's ironic and it's hypocritical. But the bottom line it is, if you are in this country to promote terrorist organizations, to participate in vandalism, to participate in acts of rebellions and riots on campus, we never would have let you in if we had known that. And now that we know that, you're going to leave. Good for him. He said he's pushing back. He said push back. Take a deep breath. We don't want terrorists in America, he said. I don't know how hard that is to understand. We want people. We don't want people in our country that are going to be committing crimes and undermining our national security or public safety. It's that simple, especially people that are here as guests. That is what a visa is. Yes, it is a guest permit. When you go into certain countries, you have to get them. As a flight paramedic, if I entered into certain South American countries, I had to get a visa, even if I was just landing on the tarmac, staying there for less than an hour to retrieve a patient from an ambulance and fly out of the country. I had to get a visa, so I was subject to their rules and regulations, and frequently we were boarded, especially in South America, by persons armed with rifles pointed at us and checking our passports. So as a country, we are sympathetic to many causes, but the Constitution we hold near and dear. And if you violate the rules as a person from outside of our country, hasta la vista, ta-ta, bye-bye, sayonara, whatever, GTFO. Sorry, it's that simple. That is the opinion of Sportcat. I guess I should make that clear. All right, so these are the monsters, according to the Trump administration, and they deported 250 gang members to El Salvador. Okay, you think our criminal justice system is bad? They bring these people in shackled and handcuffed, shave their head, strip them of their clothing, put them in white shorts, socks, tennis shoes, and a t-shirt so they all look alike. President Trump posted a video on Sunday of the criminal legal aliens arriving in El Salvador after his administration deported 250 of them, despite an order by an Obama appointed judge. I don't think it really matters who appointed the judge. I think it just matters that he's a judge. Trump team shared the video of the prisoners exiting plane along with the statement the president had posted on Truth Social. These are the monsters sent into our country by crooked Joe Biden. I really don't like the name calling on either side. And the radical left Democrats, now that I can probably agree with. How dare they? They thank you to El Salvador, and in particular, President Bukele, for understanding this horrible situation which was allowed to happen in the United States because of incompetent leadership. We will not forget. The deportees upon arrival were delivered to a mega prison with an agreement between the Trump administration and the Salvadorian president. And we can see there they were held down, shaved, all facial hair gone, and all the hair on your head. They shaved you clean. Fox News reporter shared some details about the deportations which occurred on Saturday, including a list of the crimes allegedly committing. Per a senior Trump official admin, 261 illegals were deported, 137 of them via the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. 101 of them were Venezuelans removed under Title VIII, and 20 were Salvadorian, and 13... Okay, hold on. I'm getting ahead of myself. All right. The Trump administration, 261 illegals deported to El Salvador over the weekend. 137 via the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 were removed under the Title VIII section. 21 were Salvadorian gang members MS-13. 2 were special cases for El Salvador. Apparently, El Salvador wanted them back. They were 2 MS-13 ringleaders there in their country before coming to ours. Some of the rap sheets for those included kidnapping, sexual abuse of a child, robbery, aggravated assault on police officers. So they were pretty much bad people. We got them out. So Chris says, Biden is gone. Get over it. You have control now. Shut up and do something. That's right. Get off my lawn. So the White House press secretary Karen Levitt argued that the administration had not defied the judge's order because the position of that order was not lawful. The administration did not refuse to comply with the court order, when we talked about this earlier, which had no lawful basis, was issued after terrorist Trindahalaha aliens had already been removed from U.S. territories. The written order and actions do not conflict. Supreme Court has repeatedly made clear federal courts generally, key word there, have no jurisdiction over the president's conduct of foreign affairs. His authorities under the Aliens Enemy Act and his core Article 2 powers to remove foreign alien terrorists from U.S. soil and repel a declared invasion. If you ever see some of these thousands of people rushing our border and our guards not being able to do something, if you define invasion from a military point of view, that would meet it. So we now have the rights to defend our country. So most of these prisoners were gang members. Some were MS-13, and they had supplied drugs and guns throughout the country. And this is a continued effort to fight against organized crime and make our country safer. So, yeah, that was over the weekend. President Trump, even though he was out golfing and won his tournament, he was still quite busy. He was still busy helping and protecting the American people. Unlike prior leadership where perhaps they may not have done anything and just turned a blind eye if they even knew what the F was going on. So, all right. The FBI has released over the weekend that ransomware that locks up people's data and demands crypto is back, and it is spreading, according to the FBI. And they particularly warned people that use Gmail and Yahoo. I don't know if Microsoft per se, but we're at highest risk. Don't click on anything is what this really means. If you click on it, it will put on a virus on your phone or computer, lock it up, and the terrorists will want money to get your stuff. $10,000 US in cryptocurrency. How many people have that laying around? You have that laying around? Well, don't click on anything. You won't have to worry about it. So yes, ransomware and malware is growing, especially on Gmail. We did talk about this earlier, but I'm sure, hopefully Ross won't kick me off his channel for discussing this. Secret Service agent and conservative media personality Dan Bonagino is the new FBI deputy director. The former Secret Service agent who ran unsuccessfully for office, and he has gained fame as a conservative pundit on TV shows and a popular podcast, is now been picked to be the FBI deputy director. He announced the appointment, he being the president, announced the appointment Sunday night in a post on Truth Social, praising Bonagino as a man of incredible love and passion for our country. No, they actually work together, Chris, and it's personal. So, in fact, I've got something to send Ross later today. President Trump announced his appointment last Sunday night in a post on Truth Social, praising him as an incredible man of love and passion for our country. He said it was great news for law enforcement and American justice. The selection placed his two staunch Trump allies atop the nation's premier federal law enforcement agency at a time when Democrats have raised alarm that the Republican president could seek to use the FBI to target his adversaries. I'll leave it at that. So Bongino will serve under Kash Patel, a Trump loyalist, and who was sworn in as FBI director at the White House on Friday. And they have signaled the intent to reshape the bureau. They're going to shake it up, including the relocating of hundreds of employees from Washington headquarters and placing greater emphasis on the FBI's traditional crime-fighting duties. Deputy director serves as the second in command and is traditionally a career agent responsible for the Bureau's day-to-day law enforcement operations, whereas he was a career Secret Service agent. The position does not require Senate confirmation, but Bonagino, like Patel, has never served in the FBI, which is raising questions about their experience level facing the escalating national security threats. Natalie Barrow, the president of the FBI Agents Association, wrote in an internal newsletter to members Sunday night before Bonagino's selection was announced that Patel has agreed during the January meeting with her that the FBI deputy should continue to be on board active special agents, as has been the case for 117 years, for many compelling reasons, including operational expertise and experience, as well as the trust of our special agent population. Wendell says, I wonder if I can get a grant to hunt Bigfoot now. Well, who knows? So the two are inheriting a FBI that's pretty much in turmoil right now. The past month, there's been lots of things occur, lots of resignations, lots of realignment. So, the FBI is going to be going through some growth and change. Bonagino served on the presidential detail for then Presidents Barack Obama and George W. Bush, becoming a popular right-wing figure. He became one of the leading personalities in the MAGA event, Trump movement, to spread false information about the 2020 election, which Trump and his allies have continued to maintain was married by widespread fraud through such claims as have widely been rejected by judges. For a few years following Limbaugh's death in 2021, he was the chosen one for a radio show on the same time slot. Speaking of Bonagino, Bongino began his career with the NYPD for several years in the 90s before joining the Secret Service. Then, after retiring from the service, he became a commentary spokesperson on Fox News more than a decade and a Saturday night news show. Of course, we all know about his podcast. He had run for a popular U.S. Senate seat in Maryland in 2012 and for congressional seats in 2014 and 2016 in both Maryland and Florida in 2015. He has lost all races. During an interview last fall, Bongino asked Trump to commit to forming a commission to reform Secret Service, calling it a failed agency and criticizing it for the 2 assassination attempts last year. That guy should have been nowhere near you, Bongino said about the man who, authorities say, camped outside his golf course in the West Palm Beach area, where he was spotted with a rifle. During the same interview, he praised the Secret Service agent who saw the rifle coming out of the bush. All right, so Kash Patel and Bongino will succeed the 2 acting FBI leaders, Brian Driscoll and Rob Kiskane, who have led the Bureau since the departure of January in former Director Christopher Ray's. Ray was appointed by Trump in 2017 and held the job for the next 7 years before resigning at the end of the Biden administration to make way for his chosen successor. Which we might note, he did not have to resign, by the way. He could have continued. All right, another headlining news. We're running out of time. Other headlining news. Harvard is giving tuition free to families with incomes up to $200,000. Harvard announced today that will make tuition fees for tuition free for students from families with annual incomes up to $200,000 beginning in the 2025-2026 academic years. And attending Harvard will completely free for students and families with household incomes under $100,000, with the university covering all billed expenses, including tuition, food, housing, health insurance, and travel costs. Additionally, each of these students will receive a $2,000 startup grant in their first year and a $2,000 launch grant during their junior year to help them transition. Why did they not have this when I was growing up? I wouldn't have become a paramedic. I'd been a pharmacist or a meteorologist, and two things that I chose to but couldn't afford. Oh well. So the expanded financial aid will help approximately 80% of U.S. families, and they will qualify for Harvard's financial aid, according to the university. Putting Harvard within financial reach for more individual widens the array of background experiences and perspectives that all of our students encounter. Well, yes, that's true. And hopefully we will get some great doctors. God, I hate to say this, lawyers from this. So thank you, Harvard, for lessening the burden on middle income America. Oh, we talked about this. What button did I push there? Oh, I don't want that. What button did I push? Go back. All right. Another cat food brand recalled due to possible bird flu contamination. Savage Pet is the name of the brand, and it has been recalled because it is contaminated with bird flu, and it's for 66 of the company's large 84-ounce boxes and 74 of the company's small 21-ounce boxes. The affected products come in the cardboard boxes with handles that form the shape of a cat's head. Aw, isn't that cute? Sportcat approved. The cat food boxes were distributed across 5 states: California, New York, Pennsylvania, and Washington. So if you have Savage cat food, it has been recalled. Please check with your local store. This comes after bird flu is growing and increasing, killing the avian population, and is now starting to infect the cat feline world. So no human infections have been identified as crossing from pets to owners, but I'm sure that will probably come next. So take care if your pets are outside and they're anywhere near birds. Let's see if it gives a list here. Let's see. Wild Coast Raw recalled its boneless free-range chicken formula pet food. And, of course, what we just talked about, Savage. Wild Coast was recalled. Savage has been recalled. And, of course, the American Veterinary Medical Association has issued a warning about bird flus attacking cats. Cats are already susceptible to the H5N1 virus, with several feline cases linked to poultry or wild bird exposure before the outbreak in cattle. The organization said in the statements on its websites, cats appear to be particularly susceptible to severe illness, often resulting in death. Whether infected cats can infect other cats is currently unclear. However, the possibility cannot be dismissed. So keep an eye on our feline buddies, with several cat foods being recalled. Right. Yeah, it's cat food. Another popular story, PepsiCo is buying out the prebiotic soda brand Poppy for nearly $2 billion. Has anyone tried a Poppy? I have not. I understand they're quite popular, but I've never tried a Poppy. March 17th, that's today, PepsiCo said that it is purchasing the prebiotic soda called Poppy for $1.95 billion with a B dollars. That brought the shares of PepsiCo up this morning in early trading. We didn't look at the market. Young Americans are traditionally turning to healthier sodas and energy drinks as part of a broader shift to fitness and lifestyle products that rival Coca-Cola. And this is simply expanding our brand to simply Poppy. All right. So, yeah, Pepsi also, of course, we know they own Dr. Pepper, is extending into the health food drinks by buying Poppy. I've never had a Poppy, so I'm going to go try one. So there you go. That's one of the headlines in today's financial world. Got so many, I got so little time. Forever 21, I've never been there, but apparently they are closing all U.S. stores and filing bankruptcy. Forever 21s in the U.S. are poised to go out of business after the company that owns them filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Why it matters, the retailer has about 354 stores, 9,200 employees, was a pioneer in fast fashion, becoming a once ubiquitous presence in American malls and destination for teenage shoppers. Probably why I don't know anything about it. Forever 21s are closing now due to the bankruptcy of the parent company. All right, so if you want some stuff from Forever 21, you better hurry because they're closing. I'm sure you can get a sale right now. All right. We're college basketball. We will go over more tomorrow since I'm running out of time. The men's and women's brackets have been released yesterday in soccer. Nashville beat Philadelphia, and LA Galaxy and Portland were tied. Josh Berry was the winner of the Pennzoil 400 in NASCAR. NBA highlights: the Magic, the Lakers, the Nets, and the Thunder were all winners. We'll cover that tomorrow. In golf, I don't know if that's Jeff. Neiman was the winner in Singapore. So that was your top sports scores. We'll go over more of sports basketball stuff soon because, well, we're running out of time. And I got a few things I wanted to get to. All right, so Coach Tobin has been fired after 2 seasons after losing the championship, the MAAC championship, to Mount St. Mary's Saturday. And, well, Iona fired their head coach after just 2 seasons per statement from the university. You lose, you're out. So, latest headlines, we will go over some of these tomorrow. I'll try and make more time for the sports fans. I apologize, but there's a lot going on in the world, and I had to catch up. One of the headlines was Texas signed cornerback Derek Stingley Jr. to a 3-year extension of $90 million. That's a lot of bucks. Miami Dolphins signed former Steelers first-round draft pick. Yeah, he's going from the NFC to the AFC, and, well, he's got a large sum of money waiting on him. So congratulations to him. I was trying to see, that was the top headline of how many millions he made. They make too many millions. They need to start spending that money on public safety. So sorry, that's just me. MMA news, McGregor, you know who Conor McGregor is. He's popular in the MMA sport, is going to meet with Trump as he complains about Ireland's illegal immigration racket. Yeah, 90 million is bargain compared to what Pepsi spent. Agreed. The 36-year-old appeared at the White House briefing room during a St. Patrick's Day visit to D.C. and is set to meet with the president later this afternoon. It wasn't on his schedule. MMA fighter Conor McGregor is meeting with Donald Trump today for talks on Ireland's illegal immigration racket. The 36-year-old appeared in the White House briefing room during his St. Patrick's Day visit to D.C. and is set to meet to president later today. He told a reporter he is visiting to raise the issues of the people of Ireland. What's going on in Ireland is a travesty, he said. Our government is the government of zero action and zero accountability. McGregor warned Ireland is at the cusp of potentially losing its, quote, Irishness due to the illegal immigration racket. Yet he wants to learn from and listen to President Donald Trump, whose work ethic he called inspiring. Wow. Talk for too long. He added that he wants to learn and listen. Okay. Ireland and America, we are siblings. Remember, we talked about this earlier. We are siblings. We consider America our big sibling. So it's important for Ireland to be a peaceful, prosperous country for 40 million Irish Americans to have a place to visit to come back to their homes. Remember in the 1840s when we didn't like them? So we wish our relationship with the United States to continue, and we wish to be taken care of by Big Brother. Yeah, that's not a good name for the federal government. They should look out for their little brother, according to McGregor when he was speaking after Carolyn Levitt. So, yeah. All right. Well, that was part of the daily press briefing that started at 1 that we missed, apparently. So, St. Patrick's Day around the world is a day rooted in community, humanity, friendship, and fellowship. Remember, in Mexico, it was a war. So, Conor McGregor remarks are wrong and do not reflect the spirit of St. Patrick's Day are the people of Ireland. And Trump is well known for his support of Ultimate Fighting Championship, which McGregor is best known for competing in and attending bonus bouts during the 2024 presidential campaign. So, yeah. McGregor's had some controversy in Ireland after a woman accused him of raping her, and then he's had some problems because, well, he sells alcohol. I actually want to try that. So he's a, what I call it, a lightning rod figure. Speaking of lightning rod figures, we talked about this last week. Miley Cyrus has got a brand new look, and she's introducing a new chapter in her lengthy career with an album called Endless Summer Vacation. And it easily stands out as her top performance in many respects, but is also her most respected release. She didn't come in on a wrecking ball half naked. I kind of like the other way. Just me. All right. Cyrus has been hard at work for her next full-length album that has dropped a number of hints on the collection, even sharing her idea for how massive it could be, as well as the title. But fans have been waiting patiently for the campaign to officially begin. While she has not announced the single or upcoming album, Something Beautiful will drop, and it looks like the first 2 teases have arrived. She is starting promoting her new album. So Cyrus's Something Beautiful have been in a number of major cities in the past few days. Visual appears to feature musicians in avant-garde fashion. Vintage Thierry Mugler, based on her comments by the designer. Her face is obscured. The poster is clearly connected to Cyrus, as her name is written in small font at the bottom, sending people to her website. And Something Beautiful is the text focus. Quick look at her website does not show any signs that Something Beautiful or any tunes from the project are about to be shared. The homepage only features a few snapshots of the superstar. Clicking on the musical tab will take viewers to a tune she released with Pharrell Williams over a year ago. So is Miley Cyrus about to pull a Beyonce? Cyrus told Harper's Bazaar magazine in a cover story interview that the visual component of this is driving the sound. It seems that Something Beautiful will be a visual album similar to Beyonce's Lemonade. Didn't Lady Gaga do that also? That could be seen as the next step in her becoming not just a famous figure, but she's achieved that, but a powerhouse in the music industry, as well as a true artist. I prefer the wrecking ball half dressed. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. All right. So it's set to arrive sometime this year, and we're looking for it to come out. It'll probably be a spring release. So hopefully looking forward to that. All right, this was another trending story. This is about Kat Dennings. She shared why she was iffy about playing a mom for the first time and how her real life helped her get comfortable. Shifting Gears is one of the best known TV shows for the 2025 TV schedule. I've not seen it. It is not just because of Tim Allen, who has a knack of doing sitcoms. Kat Dennings is also crushing it as her role as Riley, a newly divorced mother just trying to do the best for her kids. Playing a parent is a first time for the actress, and Dennings recently revealed that she was a bit iffy about taking this new role in her career. Those who haven't had the chance to catch up on the ABC sitcom should make use of their Hulu to catch up, as Dennings is great in her return to network television. The actress was greatly received on Not Gonna Lie with Kelsey. Anyhow, so this is a first for me that I've never played a mom. I didn't want to do next career wise. I'm 38. I'm in the area where I could play a mom, but me, how could I play a mom? I'm 12. Like, that's crazy. Obviously, the math is the math, but I was excited about the idea of doing something I've never before playing this up on my side of life. Tim Allen drove into the personal experience with grief, dove into his personal experience with grief and shifting gears. Kat Denning is able to lean into her life as well, while Raleigh has a lot on her plate. The sitcom that we hope to get figured out seems to navigate through the whole mom thing pretty well. It has not been renewed for season 2, but it is likely to be renewed for season 2. So check out that. That's a trending story about her. Today's Cinema Blend. We're wrapping up our day here, guys. And a new movie coming out that's supposed to be very popular. All right, The Amateur. All right, so Charlie is not your average typical CIA agent. He's a action hero. He's the Amateur. 20th Century Studios has revealed a new featurette and posters for The Amateur. It's a thrilling revenge movie from British director James Haw. This will be playing in theaters in April, and part of the final marketing blitz, they're releasing more footage. Get some people out to see this. I'll be watching in theaters. According to the reporter, this film follows a nerdy CIA cryptographer software guy who blackmails his own agency into training him to let him go after a group of terrorists who killed his wife in London. He realizes bosses will not act due to a conflict of internal priorities, so he takes things into his own hands and goes after them, therefore making himself the amateur. So I can't play them because of YouTube restrictions, but check out some of the trailers and teasers. It's actually pretty cool. So looks like it's going to be a good movie. We got one other thing to cover. And on March 8th, Detective Joseph Anthony Azcona of the Newark Police Division was killed in the line of duty. I wanted to talk about that. He was killed while investigating illegal weapons possession at the corners of Carteret Street and Broadway in Newark. 6:37, Sergeant Azcona and another officer arrived at the intersection to question a subject about a possible weapons possession. The subject began firing, and the officers immediately, both officers were struck while in their vehicle still. 18 shots were reported. When responding officers arrived, they found Detective Azcona and the other officer both injured. Both officers were transported to the University Hospital, where Sergeant Azcona succumbed to his wounds at 2:30 a.m. The other officer was treated for non-life-threatening injuries. 5 juveniles were taken into custody. A 14-year-old who was injured, charged with weapons possession and murder. Sergeant Azcona had served the Newark Division for 5 years, the last 2 as a detective. He is survived by his mother, father, and 5 siblings. All right, he was I can never pronounce that, after his death, promoted to sergeant. So he was a patrol officer at the time of his death. See, how far back do we go here? I don't remember where we left off, but their line of duty death for firefighters this year, 2025, is now at 18, with the most recent being out of Missouri, Donald Camerich from the Pilot Grove Fire Protection Division. And then from the Ridgeville Volunteer Fire Department of Indiana, Don Kaler. And we'll go back a little bit further because I don't remember where we left off. Vernon Collett from the Johnson County Fire Protection Division in Missouri. So we'll try and get into that more in an upcoming show. Last but not least, before we lose our Australian audience, I want to thank Chief Officer Kaylee Jones. She is promoted to the Country Fire Authority Victoria, where she had held the role of Deputy Chief of Operational Performance and Capability. 19 years of executive and operational leadership, Kaylee is deeply committed to enhancing volunteer engagement and building capability while driving operational experience in an ever-changing environment. So congratulations to Queensland Fire Department Chief Officer Kaylee Jones on her promotion. You can find more about her by going to the Queensland Fire Department website and looking up the organizational structure. Congratulations to her. She's the first female officer in the Queensland Fire Department. All right. So the only thing I didn't get to was the bracket. I wanted to cover the bracket, but we can do that on another show, because I've talked for 2 hours. I'm sure you guys are bored with me already. I hope I give you the Daily Gazette, and there wasn't too much doom and gloom in there, except for we talked about war. We're going to make it to live another day. So you guys will see me tomorrow at 4 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 1300 East Coast time. Check, I don't have the clock thing brought up, Ross. I'm sorry. World time. Thank you to Radio X in Australia. Thank you to Ross at Yerg's Radio and Rainbow Radio. I want to send out a special shout out to Pine Island, Florida, WZQY for their help in transmitting the Sportcat's daily Gloomy Gazette. So any questions for me, you can look into comments and find my email address at sportcat@protonmail.com, or you can shoot me a message if you go to speakpipe.com/sportcat. And I'm on most social medias as either Sportcat or Sportcat Medic. So you can find me and shoot me a message, friend request. Well, if you send me a friend request, I got a stalker. I'm kind of careful, but I'm more than glad to talk with anyone. And I want to get in the tradition and habit. I was late on Wednesday because of the family events for doing my Wednesday waffle. So I didn't get out till I think Friday morning. So Wednesday, I'm going to try and have my Wednesday waffle put out right after the show. So look for that. And I really want to encourage everybody. It's hashtag Wednesday waffle to do a Wednesday waffle. Or if you want to shoot me a message or video, I would play your Wednesday waffle. So I want to make sure that we get that out there. The Wednesday waffle tells your friends and people that you don't speak to regularly, just current events, what's going on, what you're thankful for, what you're blessed to have. So everybody make sure to try and do your Wednesday waffle. I want to thank my regulars. I appreciate them coming on and supporting me. If you want to jump in the chat, you can come over to YouTube and find it under the Paranormal Guys with a Z, or my personal YouTube channel, although I prefer you go to the show site and drop in the chat and check us out. There's some good people here with Wendell, Chris, Cheyenne, Denise, sometimes Brenda. So we appreciate all of you. But yeah, everybody come check us out. And well, I guess as I started off the show with, good day, good afternoon, and good evening. I hope that wherever you are in the world, you're having a great day and a safe day. Sportcat is out. I will see you tomorrow at 1 o'clock Eastern.